The biggest myth about weight loss is eat less and exercise more. But it's just not true. It's not even healthy. You need to eat, and you need to eat well. You should enjoy eating. There are so many great tasting foods that are delicious and healthy. Maybe you've tried eating less. Maybe you've tried exercising more. But ultimately, it didn't work. Listen to part of an interview I had with Dr. Robert Mackey, originator of the Control It Weight Management Program. Dr. Mackey has worked with thousands of patients, and his success with weight loss is amazing.
When I was in high school, I was a two-sport athlete. I played football, I played hockey. I was in very good shape. I got into college, and look at what happens with a lot of college kids. I put on the freshman 15. However, my freshman 15 was more like the freshman 50. A little frustrated with that, a little frustrated with myself, and of course my appearance. I was pretty young at the point, so I wasn't too concerned about my health at that time, but certainly how I looked. I got frustrated. I ended up moving to the West Coast and went to medical school, and I wanted to change my life. I wanted to change everything about my life, and I started looking at some of the books and diets that were out there, and I was struggling quite a bit, like a lot of my patients do now when they first come to see me. So that led me on a little bit of a crusade to find how does this really work, and I was in school at the time, so I started looking and doing my own research, and lo and behold, I found a method that worked, and I lost roughly about 60 pounds in in less than 3 months.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that approach that I used back then was a little crude and definitely a little I would say maybe overly aggressive.
Okay.
But from that experience, I wanted to be able to help people to to really achieve their weight loss goals, because the information that they're receiving out there, this whole eat less, exercise more, is really probably the worst advice they could get. People translate that in, they translate the eat less, exercise more into, I need to starve myself and jump on a treadmill. And that is really, we're all already too busy, too stressed out, and when you're not eating and you're trying to exercise on top of it, you're actually making the problem worse. The weight loss industry for the last 25 years has really been focused on caloric restriction. That is the easiest way to get pounds off quickly, and that's really what manufacturers and creators of programs really want, is they want the weight to come off quickly. However, that caloric restriction is really going to set people up for long-term failure, because what you see is people lose weight in the beginning, the first 3 to 6 months, and they gain it all back the second 3 to 6. The Control It program is an attempt to not only help people lose the weight quickly by balancing out their body and balancing out their hormones, but really to help them achieve long-term success. And I think that should be the gold standard of how every program is evaluated, is how long people are able to keep that weight off. As long as they maintain a few key concepts that the Control It program is trying to teach them from that educational standpoint, people are going to really be able to maintain this for the rest of their life. Again, when people hear the word diet, they think of starvation.
That's what I think of.
Yeah, they think of starvation and deprivation. They're not going to get to eat the foods they want. They're going to be hungry all the time, because again, that's the way they've been conditioned to think about a diet. Okay, this is not a diet. This takes away that whole diet mentality, because we're not counting calories. We're not having people look at portions or anything like that. We're just getting them to actually eat probably more food than they did prior to starting the program.
It's interesting, isn't it? Perhaps you're saying, I'd love to lose weight, but there's no way with my busy schedule. Dr. Mackey explains the Control It program and how it's worked for people with all kinds of lifestyles.
So the Control It program is really a way to teach people how to navigate the crazy 21st century. With all the stress and obligations that we have on a regular basis, people get busy, they forget to eat. And that is, what contributes to the weight gain process. It imbalances your body and your hormones and your regulatory systems and everything else. And the Control It program is a way to kind of reestablish that balance.
Yeah. Another aspect that I was so fascinated by this program was the 80-20 rule. That you don't have to be perfect all the time.
No, not at all. And that's really, I think, the key for people to understand, is that you do not, what I want people to do is to strive for consistency, not perfection. Okay? Perfection is unattainable.
It is unattainable.
Absolutely. With our busy lives and vacations and holidays and birthdays and things like that, people are going to indulge, and that's just okay. But what people need to understand is that there's a time and a place. There's a time that you need to nourish your body and give your body the fuel that it needs, and there's a time that you can splurge and have a good time. Okay? And I think there's a nice balance for that, and that's really, you know, the idea of the 80-20 rule is really meant to illustrate.
And you had worked with a lot of Hollywood actors and a lot of athletes, and they've kind of dictated for you to make this a simple program.
Well, I worked in Santa Monica and Los Angeles, and I worked with a lot of people in the entertainment industry, both on and off film. A lot of executives and again, a lot of people on camera, and they're very busy people. I mean, some of the busiest, stressed out people I've ever met in my life, and they came to me wanting to achieve something, whether it was weight or health or whatever, but they had no time to do it. Okay, so I had to, devise a program or give them a process that was, one, easy to do and manageable over the long term. And really, people had a great deal of success, and they're able. And again, with their busy, crazy lives, like everyone else across the country, they're able to incorporate that in and really flourish. Everyone I worked with in Los Angeles, they eat out a lot. Lunches and dinners and entertaining, and it really needed to be a necessity that they could find things to eat in restaurants. So people just need to know how to choose things effectively on the menu. And also, like I said, once their body balances out a little bit, they're not going to be working against their own cravings and appetite, because that's usually what happens. The minute that someone gets to a restaurant, they haven't eaten for several hours, or they've been stressed out that day, and they're going to sit down and they're going to overeat and store fat. They're going to make the worst choice on that menu because their body wants the calories. The Control Up program allows them to really make better choices.
You may feel like losing weight is harder for you than other people. You try, but you just don't lose weight. That's true for many people, and here's why. You had an interesting way to present, or a word picture, and you call it the 3 roadblocks to weight loss. And they literally are 3 roadblocks, and unless you get those roadblocks or manage those roadblocks, you're never going to lose weight. And if you could articulate a little bit with how those fit in.
Right. Well, when of course, being the practitioners that we are, and of course, that's the part that is exciting for me, is trying to understand how everything works. The 3 roadblocks, simply put, hormone imbalance, neurotransmitter imbalance, and food allergies or sensitivities. Okay. Now, I didn't say anything about calories in that statement. Calories are not necessarily the focus when someone is trying to lose weight. If your hormones are not balanced, if your neurotransmitters are not balanced, or if you have multiple food sensitivities in your daily diet, you're going to have a really, really tough time to meet the weight loss goals that you want. And that is the piece that most programs and products and practitioners and other conventionally minded doctors are not really addressing.
Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about hormones, and but I've never heard anybody say anything about neurotransmitters. And tell me a little bit briefly what a neurotransmitter is and how it fits into this whole craving package.
Right. Well, without getting too much into the biochemistry of that, I'm sure you and I could talk about that for a long time. But really, people hear a couple of key neurotransmitters. They've heard of serotonin before in relationship to a certain medications that maybe people have used in the past, or a friend or family member has used. And also the other neurotransmitter, the one that I think really plays more of a critical role, is one called dopamine. Dopamine is really the pleasure neurotransmitter. So
we like that right off the bat.
Absolutely. Anything that gives us a feeling of pleasure or makes us feel good is going to create a release of dopamine in the brain. Okay, so the perfect example of this is, I think we talked about this the other day, is on a movie you see a girl, maybe a teenager, she breaks up with her boyfriend, she's sitting on the couch eating her favorite ice cream, or some other comfort food, so to speak. That comfort food that people know and crave on a regular basis, it releases dopamine in the brain, and that's what dopamine is meant to do. It's meant to it's meant for them to remember what gave them that pleasure response. Okay, so people are continually stuck in this little bit of a vicious cycle that they keep going back to those same foods over and over and over. So again, the Control Up program is a way to kind of break that cycle and give people back some control of the food choices they make, because really 21st century society is really working against people on a daily basis. Every program on the market that people have access to is based on caloric restriction. Appetite suppressants, all that stuff is based on caloric restriction. And the whole mindset is eat less, exercise more. or restrict your energy in, energy out. The less calories you eat, the more weight you're going to lose.
It does kind of make sense.
Well, it makes sense logically, but in reality, inside the body, it makes no sense at all. And that's why people lose weight in the beginning, like I said, in the first 3 to 6, but then they gain it all back later because the body senses that deprivation and it goes into a compensatory mechanism, and you're priming the body for weight gain. Okay, and that's what people don't realize. And eventually, when you starve yourself, either intentionally or when you starve yourself intentionally, eventually the body is going to kick in certain other mechanisms that's going to make you eat more. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to crave sugar. So now, when people are again starving themselves and jumping on a treadmill, the first thing that's going to happen after a period of time is that their cravings for sugar are going to go up. So again, people are going to end up sabotaging themselves. And they're going to get frustrated, and they're going to be back in that vicious cycle of success, no success. Losing it, gaining it, losing it, gaining it. We're trying to break that cycle so people can, like I said, they can lose it, but they can keep it off.
The Control It program is simple, but the science behind it represents years of clinical research. That's why Control It is distributed and administered through doctors and wellness professionals. It's 100% natural and safe. No prescription drugs and no side effects. In fact, as people lose weight, they actually experience all kinds of health benefits.
On average, what I've noticed over the years and with the Control It program, men lose about 8 to 12 pounds a month. Okay, so that's on average about 10 pounds a month. All right. So in a 2-month or a 3-month period of time, someone could easily lose 20 or 30 pounds.
And let's go back to in a healthy way.
In a healthy way, yeah. And that does not.
They don't gain that back.
No. They maintain that process, and it just keeps on going because again, we're balancing the body out, and that does not necessarily mean they need to exercise 4 or 5 times a week. In fact, what I usually have people do in the beginning is I don't want them to exercise at all. Okay, and like we said, they're stressed out. They have a lot on their plate.
Radical thinking.
Absolutely, and I think people like to hear that because they're just too busy to have to do change their diet, change their lifestyle, and exercise as well. For women, it's a little bit more of a women have about half the success that men do. So in a typical month, women are going to lose about 4 to 6 pounds a month. Okay, so over a period of 60 to 90 days, they're going to lose anywhere from 8 to 12 pounds or so. Sure. So I think what really needs to happen, people need to understand that their expectation of how much weight they're going to lose, how quickly, is a little bit unrealistic. Okay. And we've been seeing a lot of marketing, a lot of unscrupulous marketing that gets people to think that they're going to lose 30 pounds in a month. And if there's something out there that allows people to lose 30 pounds in a month, which there's are some things, it's really that's where that rebound weight gain is going to come in. It's going to come off too quickly, and you're going to gain it all back. Like I said, I want this process to be a little bit more drawn out, where the weight comes off in a more gradual fashion, but that's going to ensure that you keep the weight off long term. What I've noticed with the Control It program, using it in my practice with literally thousands of people and even larger groups, I've noticed a myriad of other symptoms and problems go away. Their sleeping gets better, their digestion improves, their energy improves, their mood gets better. So there's a lot of additional benefits that people can receive because really, like we talked about early on, it's really about getting healthy. The weight loss almost becomes a nice added bonus. So if people, not only do they feel better, but they certainly look better as well.
So people start the program because they want to lose weight, but then all of a sudden they start feeling better, they start looking better. Yeah. Their friends are saying to them, hey, you look good, what are you doing?
Yeah, they recapture that vibrance that they might have had when they were a little younger, because really, as we get older as adults, the older we get, the more stress we have, and that kind of beats us down a little bit, and it's that stress and constant barrage of stress that we have that sometimes kind of dictates the dietary choices we make. So really, it is, again, trying to undo that and break that, like I said, break that vicious cycle. And people don't realize how bad they felt until they feel good. Oh. Once they feel good and those other things kind of clear up and the body is kind of is more back, when the body's back in balance, they love it. They don't really want to. They never want to go back to where they came from.
People don't want to turn back because they look better and they feel better. Now, thanks to Dr. Mackey and Biotics Research Corporation, Control It is not just available to celebrities and corporate executives. What cost them thousands of dollars has been made available and affordable to you. Talk to your healthcare professional. They can explain how simple the program is and can help monitor your progress. Get started, get healthy, lose weight, and never look back.